Okay, so I decided to put together a blog telling you about the differences between America and Europe. Um, we had the opportunity to go to Europe last year, my husband and I. We actually visited three countries. We had a blast, and even though we were only there for a short time, it was an enjoyable experience. And we noticed that there was some differences with things that you don't normally think of, such as how to use using ATM cards, exit signs, things like this. And so I decided to make a blog for those who are thinking about going to Europe. Maybe they've never been. Um, of course, there's a lot more in terms of culture, in terms of differences, and that's something that you would experience if you go there for an extended period of time. But you'll notice some of these differences even if you go there for a couple of weeks. So these are some of the things that we'd like to share with you. I might split this into two videos, and I may also do a video about some things that I don't like about America that I like about Europe in another blog. So here we go. So one of the first things that is different about Europe as opposed to America is the way they use their ATM cards. Okay, so ATM cards, credit cards usually have a magnetic strip on the back, and in America we use these to purchase orders, whether we're going to a restaurant or a convenience store or paying for gas or going to the grocery store or using the ATM. But in Europe, they don't do the magnetic stripes anymore. In fact, almost all stores, almost all of them, all stores, all restaurants, all convenience stores use the magnetic chip instead. If you want to see it there, right there. Okay? And these are more commonplace. So if you don't have a card with the magnetic strip, get one. Because if you don't, you will regret it. We learned the hard way. There are areas that still use a magnetic strip in Europe, but these are only ATM cards where you can withdraw money, that type of thing. So just be prepared for that. Another thing that we noticed about Europe was the differences in street signs or train signs. Not much of a difference, but they express things in a different way. So for instance, if you go to a train station here in America, such as New York or whatnot, you'll see exit, okay? But in Europe, particularly in England, it won't say exit, it'll say way out, okay? So that's a difference that you'll see when you go to Europe, okay? Also, even if you're ordering food for takeout, if you go to a restaurant here in America and you order dinner and you order a takeout, the person will ask you, do you want this for here or to go? But in Europe, particularly in England, if you go to a restaurant and you want a takeout order, they'll ask you, do you want this food for here or takeaway? So they say takeaway, which is like their expression of ordering takeout. Okay. Another thing you'll notice, differences between Europe and America, is the size of the streets and the size of the cars. And this is something that is probably known anyway, but it's good to just to reiterate it. So the size of the streets in Europe are smaller and they're more compact. They have more compact two-lane streets, two-lane highways, that type of thing. Everything is more close together in Europe, you know, in terms of the city, in terms of city blocks and everything. So even if you own a Honda or if you own an Audi, they're going to be smaller sized in Europe. The cars are made smaller because the streets are smaller, more compact, that type of thing. Okay. Also, what you'll notice in Europe, which is a little bit different from the United States, is the transportation. So unless you're in New York and somewhat San Francisco, you know that here in the United States, transportation really sucks. That's something that I'll probably talk about in another blog. You pretty much have to fend for yourself. here in America, and you have to rely on cars to get around. But the benefit of being in Europe is they have an efficient transportation. They have good subway systems, they have good bus systems, good taxi systems, and there's always a way to get around. For instance, in London, they have the London Underground. They also have some other transit systems such as the DLR train and the overhead train. And they'll take you to, the greater part of the city and to the outskirts of the city and whatnot. That's for an example. And they're pretty efficient. I mean, the trains come, every 5 minutes. There might be some drawbacks, like if, for instance, there's a strike. When we were in England, the underground train system was on strike for 24 hours, so we had to find other ways to get around. But it doesn't happen often, and transportation is pretty reliable. Once you get a Metro card or whatnot, you'll be able to get around quickly. So transportation in Europe is quite efficient, and that's something that comes very much in handy. And then the final thing that is different between Europe and America is the serving sizes of drinks. And I'll probably kind of talk a little bit more about this in another blog. But here in America, if you go to a Starbucks or a McDonald's or whatnot, your small size is a 12 ounce. And your medium size is a 16 ounce, your large size is a 20 ounce. Sometimes there's super sizes. If you go to McDonald's, there's the super size, meal, the super size Mac, that type of thing. What you'll find out in Europe is that they don't have such things as a super size. And their 12 ounce drinks are the large drinks. Or actually their 16 ounce drinks, particularly in England, are the largest size. Their small drinks are actually maybe 8 ounces, maybe 9 ounces. And this is not just in specialty cafes or restaurants. This is actually in their fast food restaurants too. So if you go to a McDonald's, like if you go to Italy or France and you go into a McDonald's and you order a cup of coffee, their coffee is going to come in an 8 or 9 ounce. And it's really quite beneficial, I think, because again, it's cutting down on the caloric intake, and it's more beneficial for you than you think it is. So anyway, those are just some of the differences between America and Europe. I kind of clumped all the 3 countries into this category, but I'll probably make another video to kind of talk about the differences. So if you have any questions, let me know and hit me up.